George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. Linda Brown Robinson, longtime involvement in the Central New York, Syracuse chapter, Onondaga County chapter of the NAACP. Well, the sister got a new job. She is now the New York Western Region Director of the NAACP, which includes, I'm going to guess, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo, and all points in between. Congratulations to you, Linda. Long time work. And I'm laughing because I thought this was chill out mode for you, but apparently not. Linda, congratulations. And I mean, just first of all, how did you come to be the New York Western Region Director of the NAACP?
Well, you know, George, whether the viewers or the listeners, I should say, know this, but Van and I were part of a coalition of about 7 individuals: Will Morgan, Bob Epps, Emma Johnston, just to name a few. Jump-started or got this branch rechartered back in the early 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been around the NAACP for a lot of years. And so for this, you know, and when we started, just so you know, Hazel Dukes was the president about then.
Right.
Because there were like 2 other factions, including the one we're a part of. And she said, you know, you can only have 1 branch in that geographical area. And so, as you know, we were the successful ones, and we bid out, however the process went. We bid out all those folks, and so now we're known as the Syracuse Onondaga NAACP.
Well, but wait a minute, Linda, you are going over something that I don't remember or know about. So do tell, spill that tea.
I drank all the tea.
Go ahead. You drank it. I like that. I like it. But you got to tell me a little bit about this. What happened back in the day?
Well, you know, when Van and I got here about, I want to say 1968.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we became entrenched, because I don't know what happened between the time we got here and the 70, 71-ish. So I just know that there were a few of us, and Van may at some point be able to shed a little bit more light. I just remember the process and how we got started. So I say all that to say that once we got up and going and we became the Syracuse Onondaga branch of the NAACP, branch number 21789, we just began a movement, and people were probably looking for this to happen, George. And it did. And, you know, we've been moving ever since, very strong. And for me, Hazel was the president then. She's still the president now. And I have had several other state positions and several other national positions. Van actually had this same job prior to me. He was the Western Region Director before he's now deceased, Frank Messiah, who reigns from the Buffalo area. And I was the New York State Membership Chair, and I was responsible for the entire state of New York. So I guess it became just a natural transition. But what happened was we had Frank Messiah, and after Frank died, there wasn't anybody, and we had no one for years. And Hazel put someone else in there just interimly, and actually 2 people, to cover 11 branches, because I don't know if you know that there are 11 branches in this region. And just recently she asked, would I do it? And I didn't hear any more about it. That was in the beginning of the year. So I said to my good friend, Gwen Mork, I think Hazel probably forgot. She asked me, and Gwen said, oh, Hazel doesn't forget anything. But I didn't hear anything, and I really kind of dismissed it. About mid-May, we were on our board meeting, our statewide board meeting, and Hazel, I heard her say something about the 75 is not old, it's young. And I said, And I had just turned 75
Mhm.
within days of that. And I said, did she say something about me? And I wasn't kind of listening. Lo and behold, she made this announcement. And I'm sitting there on Zoom looking shocked. And I had my hands over my mouth and Van is going from the next room, Linda, don't look so shocked. Don't look so shocked. And because I'm sitting there going, and, and so Hazel made the announcement that I would be it. And I said, okay, I've got large shoes to fill. Frank Messiah, my husband, and anybody else who came before me. And I'm happy to serve. And you're right, George. I certainly was going to pivot into retirement little by little by little. I didn't pivot long or hard.
Yeah, it's so funny. And anybody that knows Linda, you're in front and you're behind too. That usually that doesn't happen, right? Usually somebody's out front and they're doing all this stuff. And there are also people who are behind the scenes persons, but you kind of do, you got your hands in both of those worlds.
Is there something wrong with me up here?
Right? True.
Yeah, I just recently told someone I never ask anything of anyone that I won't do myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so for that reason, I probably am. If you say that I'm doing out in front and behind the scenes, perhaps I am, but that's because I just feel the need. Our community needs people.
Yeah, I like this idea of our community needs people. And so you've been out here doing this work for so many years, trying to make sure that the branches serve, you were immediate past president of the Syracuse Onondaga County chapter, and now you have larger responsibilities. So what does it mean for you to be responsible for 11 branches across the region?
We have very good branches in this region, and I will say it goes from Niagara Falls in the west and down to Elmira Corning in the east.
So we're picking up Southern Tier. Okay, yeah.
Southern Tier, Oneonta, Rome, Utica, Binghamton, Auburn, Syracuse, and we have a new branch. I don't know if you know this, but Van actually got this one started, him back in the 90s, maybe, Rochester. And we got them up and running. He met with Reverend Cherry, who was one of the pastors at the time. And they sort of flourished for a while. They had an AXO program. And then all of a sudden, they went out of business, so to speak. And just within the last 8 months, they're back, and they had an election, I want to say in December, and now they're a branch. So we have Rochester as well on board. And I have been in touch with all of my branches, all 11 in the last 2 to 3 weeks.
So what is your role to support them? What's your role?
My role is to be a police officer, to oversee what they do, to support them in whatever needs. We have some of the same things all of our branches are working on at the same time. So my job is I will meet with them probably monthly. We have our first meeting scheduled for sometime in September. But your Binghamton branch, George, if we don't pull you all together, I may not know that Elmira Corning or Niagara Falls or Buffalo has the same problems. And so my job would be to put them in touch with each other, collaborate with each other. You tell me your problems. And I have some things that I really want to, and I don't want to spill them here, but some things that will bring us all together that we can talk about in some kind of public medium, maybe a newsletter, maybe a website. And I would love for you at some point to speak to some of my branches in this region, since we can do it all remotely now.
Yeah, I love that, Linda, talking to Linda Brown Robinson, the new New York Western Region Director for the NAACP. And I'm always interested, is particularly for upstate New York communities, how do we connect upstate Black communities in particular, or communities of color? How do we understand the unified issues that these communities are going from? Some are very large, or larger than others, right? You go from Buffalo, Niagara Falls, to Rochester, to Oneonta, Elmira, but where very small communities, yet there are folks in these places. And so what is it, what are the factors that unite us? What are the areas where we're excelling, right? What's Binghamton doing great that Syracuse can take a look at? What is Elmira doing? Or what are the ways in which we can borrow the best practices of these communities, at the same time share our collective wisdom around the issues that Black communities across the country are faced with, whether it's police, community, whether it's high poverty, economic development, jobs. Those are obviously issues that an NAACP, and of course discrimination, right? And those kinds of things. So I'm really interested in and this it hasn't happened yet, right? I mean, there really hasn't been any statewide, hey, maybe we should do this, Linda, you know what I'm saying? But there really hasn't been a statewide linkage of the upstate communities where the voices are collective, right? We just, at least, maybe I'm missing something, but if you're under the sound of my voice and you know of the thing that exists that links these communities, I please let me know. I remember back in the day, Linda, there was a gentleman by the name of Paul Webster, and we tried to do something like that when I was back on WSYR way back a few years ago, and he was publishing out of Albany, and that's what he did. He tried to bring together the different communities to report news of what was going on there. So maybe
I would love to be able to do that, because as you well know, as a downstater, somehow the people downstate think we end, or upstate begins or ends at the Westchester County line.
Yeah.
And
Rockland County, if you're lucky, right?
You know what? Absolutely.
Right.
And we all know that we have a lot to give and a lot to offer from upstate. And so I think Hazel has said to herself, okay, something else besides New York City, the Long Island. And I certainly have a few counterparts, which is the Long Island region, and New York City, which is called the Metropolitan Council, Westchester, and we have Mid-Hudson, and even Albany has one. So the other night we had a Zoom call with the Albany folks, and we all talked about things that are germane to upstate New York. And so it's going to be my job to assist the branches. It's not going to be my job, to do a total makeover, but some of them need some help, but pretty much they're self-sufficient. But I want to make sure that people know all over the state of New York what upstate has to offer about the NAACP, and what you may be dealing with and looking into down in maybe Long Island. It may benefit upstate New York. Let's share the wealth kind of thing. And so my branches already have been very supportive in sharing what they can. We have some brand new female presidents. As you know, we have a female president again here. We have one in Utica. There's a female president in Niagara Falls. Down in Elmira, Corning is a female president. So us women are taking over.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful. So Lynn, let me ask the obvious question. So, and you got a nice raise with this position, right?
Oh yeah. I can probably go to Solvay. George, for all your viewers, this is a volunteer position.
Wow. Right? Serving the community. What is it about the NAACP and all of the years of service and all of the different roles that keeps you connected in this way, where you're volunteering blood, sweat, and tears to serve the community?
What makes me do that?
Yeah. What is it? Why do you, and what makes you, if you want to, however you want to, you know?
I love to travel. I love to vacation, but I also love to give back to my community. But I will say that I can't complain what's wrong with the system if I don't help try to change the system.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, I think, how Van and I both got started. We wanted to see something better for our community. And I'd like to say over the years, I've learned an awful lot. Our community has grown. We see much more than I ever saw when we first came here, back in '68. And we're improving. We have the voice of our young people is phenomenal. I'm so glad to see our young people, because people like me at 75 are not going to be here forever and ever. And so young people, I see more. What I see now in terms of our public, people who serve us, our elected officials, I see more people of color. I think the three most prominent people that I saw on our school board when I first got here was Big John Young, Marge White, and Shirley Moody.
Remember,
and we had hardly any. I mean, Van is the first African-American to be a council president. So we are moving in the right direction, George, and hopefully the NAACP can lead the charge for us to even have much better, presence in the community.
And I know in some of those communities, what's the relationship with the universities? Do you have any jurisdiction over those chapters as well?
I don't. There's a youth and college division.
Okay, and they take care of that.
Yes, but not to say, because I forget, we had COVID in between.
Right.
So 2019, we assisted, we took food up when they were having to sit in the protest.
Mm-hmm.
I said to the chapter, we need to put some money and get some money out there to help those young people up there, because they're doing positive things. We don't all knock heads and beat people up, and we're not killing, and we're not. So these young people are doing something, whether you agree with their philosophy or not, they're still out there doing something. And so for that reason, I said to the board, we have to support that community. But we did meet a number of times with the young people from the university, but school's just starting. And so I will probably get some information on the youth and college. But the temporary person that was before me, Karen Blanding, she does work with the youth and college kids from Syracuse University and our other youth councils around the state.
Linda Brown Robinson, New York Western Regional Director, NAACP, 11 branches under her supervision, guidance, and input. And the other thing that I want to see is a sort of summit of elders and youth, right? Because that's the other thing that I feel like we're not, again, my perception, y'all tell me if I'm wrong or not. My perception is we're not passing the torch, or there's a couple of things that I'm perceiving. One, that there may be no respect for the older leadership. So that's one. Two, the older leadership may not get out of the way and make room for the younger leadership. And then three, that there should be more conversation between the generations. I've always thought that we needed a more intergenerational dialogue, and maybe the NAACP, if they haven't done this already or isn't that connects Black Lives Matter to the freedom fighters, if you will, or to the people who were chaining themselves to the cars to get folks jobs down at National Grid. It's that history, to me, doesn't seem to be filtering down through, so that there's that shared awareness and struggle of what has gone on before. Am I off base there? Or
absolutely not. I will tell you that's an excellent idea, and we should be doing that post haste, maybe soon as we get out of this pandemic kind of thing.
Yeah.
And George, I'd like to talk further on this.
Yeah.
whether it be locally here in Syracuse or this region,
Yes.
all of us get together and have some kind of summit
Yeah.
that addresses these issues, because this is probably not germane to Syracuse. I know it's probably not germane to, or it is germane to, germane to Auburn, Cayuga Auburn branch.
Right.
And they're a small community and don't have the resources. But if we put a lot of our minds and hands together, we could come up with an idea. So George, I would love to be able to sit down with you and perhaps the other branch presidents, or perhaps maybe you would love to be a guest at one of our regional meetings for the Western region. Would you consider that as being a guest?
I would certainly consider that. I mean, I'd really like to see this, that there be an intergenerational understanding so that the young folks who are putting it all on the line, as was the case in history. In other words, what I want them to understand is that the same people who were doing the sit-ins are now the elders. Make room, and so we can have a conversation about how we uplift together. You know, maybe the elders aren't as quick to run out and organize on the social media platforms, but maybe there's some other kind of teaching and strategy that can happen. I feel like together, with us working together like that, we can really, at least it's a start, right? Because I feel like there's not, I think in communities like Syracuse that tend to be transient, and the knowledge doesn't get passed on as well as it can. That doesn't mean that it doesn't get passed on, but not as well as it can. And then you have people in position that don't know the history, and that's a challenge.
Well, you said the word transient. I see, and I wish you would correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see us being as transient now as we were 10 or 15 years ago in this community.
Yeah.
I just heard of a young woman, and I want to say the Zetas partnered with us, and they tabled with us, I should say,
Yep.
at our Van Robinson Pan-African Village table.
Yeah.
And
I was there that day, actually.
See? And that was a great day. And they just tabled the other day, and there was a young woman that I was told, I think Gwen Moore told me, that she's a doctor now, and she chose not to go back where she came from. She finished school here, and she's staying. And when I first got here, people would get their education and they would leave. And I think people are staying a little bit more. I take our great film crew, Black Cub.
Yes, from LA.
And our Johanna Rogers, I was told, convinced them that they should stay. And so I think we are becoming a little bit more progressive, if you will. And I think people are seeing that we have potential. And so I think we're becoming a better community than it was when I came here in 1968, when I first got here.
And so I'll clarify my remarks. When I say transient, I mean that the history isn't residing in a space where it can be continuously refreshed and renewed, where people can get that. That's what I mean by that. Or we don't know where to go to get that, or the spaces where that history would be transmitted, and yes, absence of media, right? That's a big deal, right? Aside from what we're trying to do here. So Linda, I think we're onto something here, and I'm certainly looking to use this platform to make those connections so that at least we begin to transmit the very strong history that we have. Because, you come from a bigger place, you come from another place, oh, what's going on over there? It's not moving as fast enough as I would like it. And yet, folks have really put the work in, some real hard work, and people need to know that and value it, if at least, and then also make room for other voices. I think that's where we are.
Well, I'm going to look to partner with you on this. We have our meeting next month, And then I would look to see if we can set a date for October,
Yeah.
so that you can be our guest, and then I can report something that we're doing that's concrete. So you can get a chance to meet the people from Niagara Falls to Elmira Corning area.
That would be great.
And I would love that. And then maybe we can get something going and people will know that there is more to the state of New York than the Westchester line.
And Linda, last chance, not last chance, but lastly, why should people care? Why should people be involved with the NAACP?
Well, I said it a little bit ago on a Zoom, is our voting rights are under attack.
Yes, they are.
And this is the way it was in the 50s and the 40s. And your people and my people, or people that look like us, got killed fighting for the right to vote. And George, it hurts me in the heart. We're out there doing voter registration, not just this fair, but every fair since I became president, we were doing voter registration. And I will tell you, George, I wish you could be a fly on the wall to see how many of our young people are not voting. Van is asking people, are you registered to vote? You either get looking that way, or you go, or you hear, oh, yeah, I am. So I started asking, so where is your polling place? And then they scoop. They don't want to have anything to do with that question nor the answer. And so, if for no other reason, we have got to involve our young people. We have got to make sure that our voting rights are not taken away. I think I just read on a news feed, some other state is waiting to sign some legislation to roll some stuff back. We should be progressing forward, not diminishing our right and moving backwards.
Yes, we should. And a reason enough. All right. Linda Brown Robinson is the New York Western Region Director for the NAACP. 11 branches under her supervision, if you will, but also still active here in the Syracuse community.
And wait a minute, George, I have to add something.
Go ahead.
Kudos to George. Thank you, George is one of our newest members to the NAACP family in Syracuse and Onondaga County. Thank you, George.
Life.
He put life membership. I'm sorry. He's putting his money where his mouth is, folks.
Thank you so much for that shout out. I appreciate that. And more to come. We'll get that done and make that happen as we roll through it. This conversation is happening the day before the last day of the fair, which is always Labor Day. So if you're going to the fair today, the NAACP has a booth at the Van Robinson Pan-African Village. And today, obviously the fair is open until 11 o'clock, opens right at the end of the show, 11 o'clock. So here's how you do it. After the show, if you go in the church, do that, and then head to the fair for the last 2 days of this 18-day fair. I know that people have been making a big deal out of the attendance, but look, folk, this is COVID. Let's not trip, right? Have a good time. I was at my sister comes up every year to go.
From New Rochelle?
From New Rochelle, yeah. She comes up from New Rochelle. And and the Pan-African Village stage was beautiful. We saw a great show. And so there's a lot to do, and the food is good, and it's always a great time. And I love the DJ that they had. I was out there doing the wobble and the cha-cha slide and all that.
We're having a good time, and that's what it's all about.
It's
bringing
all about
a little bit of culture, a little bit of entertainment, but a little bit of history and a little bit of learning.
There you go.
And next year, I'm planning on doing something a little different with the Pan-African Village and the NAACP's booth. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. All right, Linda Brown Robinson, New York Western Region Director, NAACP. For the local chapter, local in Syracuse anyway, it's SyracuseNAACP.com for membership, all levels, support the NAACP. And if you're under the sound of my voice, in the 11 branches that are under the sound of my voice, please support through membership and volunteerism if you can, your local NAACP. Make Linda look good. Make this Western region look good.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that.
Inspiration for the nation.